A beef between two titans of the New York music scene hits the sex trafficking and racketeering trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Why 50 Cent was brought up this week during emotional witness testimony. Combs and 50, they've been at odds for a long time. And now, one of them's facing the possibility of spending the rest of their life in federal prison, and the other is not holding back or hiding the apparent joy they find in that possibility happening with a guilty verdict.
No one saw it coming when 50 Cent entered that courtroom. For years, he'd taken aim at Diddy online, mocking him, joking, and calling him out in his usual sharp style. But as he stepped into the witness stand, everything shifted. This was no longer internet banter. This was no simple feud. The stakes had changed. And what 50 Cent brought to court wasn't just idle talk. It was something explosive.
Sean Diddy Combs and 50 Cent. These two go back a long time. They have been rivals for a long time. And this week we learned that, at least from Diddy's side of things, this feud apparently went far beyond words. 50 Cent's name came up during the testimony this week of Capricorn Clark. She is a former assistant of Sean Combs who went on to become the head of marketing for his Sean John clothing brand. Clark rose successfully and professionally through the ranks of Diddy's world during her time working for him, which stretched between 2004 to 2018, so she saw a lot. Clark claimed that Diddy would threaten her, and she says he even kidnapped her in 2011. All of this matters as we build up to how 50 Cent kind of factors into what she said on the stand. Now, Capricorn Clark started working for Bad Boy after she worked for Death Row Records. Now, that's surprising, since Death Row was ran by perhaps Diddy's most hated enemy, Suge Knight. Clark said that one of her good friends had a baby with Suge Knight, and that's how she knew him. And in perhaps the most shocking story from her testimony, Clark claimed that shortly after she started working for Diddy, Diddy and his security guards took her to Central Park after dark, and Diddy said, quote, "He told me he didn't know that I had anything to do with Suge Knight, and if anything happened, he would have to kill me." It is an allegation that paints Combs as someone who is ready to take a life. But as Capricorn Clark's testimony continued, she brought up another rival of Sean Diddy Combs and another allegation that he made an ominous threat of violence. Clark testified, when working for Diddy, they went to a press event at MTV and 50 Cent was there. And just wait until you hear what she says Diddy told 50's manager. 50 Cent's real name is Curtis Jackson. He rose to fame in the early 2000s. You might remember songs like In the Club. You might remember that he was the leader of the rap group G-Unit. Now, 50 grew up in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Diddy, also a New York native. He was born in Harlem, grew up in Mount Vernon, New York, just about 20 miles away. And even though they both had success in music, they both rose to fame representing the city of New York and the rap scene there, they have been longtime rivals. In 2006, 50 Cent released a diss track about Diddy. So almost 20 years ago. This goes back a long way. And in that diss track, he says, quote, "Who shot Biggie Smalls? We don't get 'em. They gon' kill us all. Man, Puffy know who hit that expletive. Man, that expletive soft." Now, 50 is accusing Combs there of knowing who killed his friend, the notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace. Wallace and Puffy were incredibly close, but Wallace was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting in Los Angeles in 1997, and no one has ever been charged for pulling the trigger. This all happened during really the height of the East Coast-West Coast rap rivalry of the 90s, which involved Suge Knight, who we mentioned earlier. 50 Cent has also accused Diddy of orchestrating the murder of death row rapper Tupac Shakur, who died in 1996 in a Las Vegas drive-by shooting.
The entire courtroom was caught off guard. Diddy himself seemed completely unprepared. Once 50 began to testify, the atmosphere turned. He started with a calm but pointed statement. "I've known Sean for a long time, longer than most here. I know the public Diddy, but I also know the private one." Instantly, the tension in the room changed. 50 Cent's voice was steady, almost cold. He said he never wanted to be involved in this case. He claimed he'd tried to stay away, but when he saw the headlines and heard the rumors, he realized he had to speak up. Not just to take a jab at a rival, but because he had witnessed things, heard things. And those things were far darker than most could imagine.
This is Dwayne Keith D. Davis. He was arrested in September 2023, and he is the only person facing charges related to Tupac's murder. But 50 Cent has continued to push the allegation that Sean Combs either knows something or did something for Tupac to end up dead, though Diddy has denied that. But in a 2023 Instagram post, 50 wrote, "Damn, so Pac got lined by brother love, LOL, time to lawyer up, expletive, might get sticky," with a pic of Suge Knight in a car with Tupac. Diddy, who has a lot of names, Puff Daddy, Puffy, Puff, and brother love is one of those other names. Now, from Diddy's side of things, again, he's denied having anything to do with Tupac's murder, and he's also denied having anything to do with Christopher Wallace's death, and he's denied publicly having issues with 50 Cent. Here's what Combs said when he was asked about a beef with 50 in a 2018 interview with the radio show The Breakfast Club, Power 105.1 FM.
Hey, yo, I don't have no beef with
I don't know why.
With Fifth. He loves me. He loves me.
Do y'all really
can't
have
see
a
it?
beef?
I mean, y'all can't see it.
No, we can't see
Y'all
it,
can't
man.
see that he loves me?
But see,
you really think that's hate?
If you look at 50's social media, you can see he has a lot of posts about Diddy. And this is what he posted the day that federal agents in Miami raided Combs' mansion ahead of his arrest on the charges that he's now on trial for. 50 Cent posted on X, "Now it's not Diddy do it, it's Diddy done. They don't come like that unless they got a case." 50 Cent also included a link to his G-Unit clothing brand in that post. While Diddy in the Breakfast Club clip said that 50 Cent actually loves him and there was never a beef, on the stand this week, Capricorn Clark said otherwise. Clark said that she was at this press event at MTV with Diddy and 50 Cent was also there, all of this happening in New York. Clark said, quote, "After the interview wrapped up, myself, Puff, and Chris Lighty got in the elevator." Clark said that Lighty was an entertainment manager who, on paper, was managing Diddy at the time, but was also 50 Cent's manager at the time. Prosecutors asked Clark what happened in the elevator, and she said, quote, "Puff told Chris, because they were having some sort of issue, like, I really don't like all the back and forth. I don't do that. I like guns." The prosecutor then asked, "What's the issue with an individual?" And Clark responded, he had an issue with 50 Cent. She said Combs was very serious when he said that. In this case, it has become common to hear testimony from witnesses about alleged threats by Diddy. In fact, several witnesses have said that Diddy regularly threatened to fire people, to beat people, like his former girlfriend Cassie Ventura, and in this case, making a threat involving firearms to settle a dispute per the testimony of someone who was one of his closest associates for more than a decade. Invoking gun violence and some sort of veiled threat, that could be scary for some, but apparently not 50 Cent.
Described parties, not the ones everyone saw online, but the private gatherings that took place when cameras were off and phones were put away. Diddy, he explained, wasn't just known for his wealth or style, but for creating places where normal boundaries no longer applied. These were rooms where pleasure, power, and manipulation all blurred together. 50 didn't hold back. He called Diddy's behavior predatory, saying Diddy thrived on having control. He would watch people, push them, and see how far they'd go. If someone pushed back, they'd be pushed out quietly, and for good. 50 recounted a night he said he'd never forget. Years ago, after a music event, he was invited to an exclusive suite Diddy was hosting. At first, it seemed like any other after-party bottles, music, celebrities, but the mood was off. Some guests looked uncomfortable. The vibe was tense. 50 said he left after an hour. The next morning, a friend who'd stayed told him they'd seen things they couldn't unsee. That people were being pressured into things they didn't consent to. And Diddy was at the center of it. That was the turning point for 50 Cent, realizing this wasn't just about wild parties. It was about how Diddy wielded his influence to create an environment where people either complied or vanished. The stories kept coming. Artists who suddenly disappeared from the spotlight. Employees who quietly quit without warning.
On Instagram, 50 posted right after his name came up in the courtroom, quote, cut, wait a minute. Puffy's got a gun? I can't believe this. I don't feel safe, with a picture that looked like an AI image of 50 Cent on a movie set looking serious. And he wasn't done. Shortly after that, he posted another AI image on Instagram of him in a Yankees hat with a very scared look on his face with the caption, "Oh my goodness, itty bitty Diddy wants me dead. I have to lay low." Sad face emoji. "I think I'm gonna hide out at the playoff game tonight, LOL. Then the next day he posted what he did that night. He went to the NBA playoff game between the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers in Indiana. And you can see him here in a picture on the floor in a shirt that reads, quote, Free Diddy, playing into the trolling that 50 Cent has done to Sean Combs over the years, even before Combs was ever accused of what he is on trial for. Now, Combs' trial is expected to last another month at least. He's charged with racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He has pleaded not guilty. Join us now to talk more about the trial of Sean Diddy Combs and everything that's going on inside the courtroom is Afi Patterson, civil and criminal defense attorney. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. We're focusing on what was a minor moment in the grand scheme of everything we heard in the trial this week, but there's this anecdote that Capricorn Clark told about what related to 50 Cent, but what Diddy allegedly told 50 Cent's manager at MTV during her time of working for Diddy. What did you make of that? Sean Combs saying, I don't like the back and forth, but I like guns.
You know, I think it goes to the overall case. They've been saying that Diddy was a dangerous guy. If he made a threat, he could back it up. And I do recall reading that she said that his demeanor was very, very serious. And knowing his history, his violent history, knowing about the beef between Biggie and Tupac, I think that it probably frightened her. And I think that just again, her knowing about his violence, his propensity for violence, his behavior with her, his behavior with Cassie, his behavior with other employees, he's just continually reinforcing that violence. So I think it was a really good moment for the government.
Yeah, it's just, and it seems like there are these little moments along the way where there are some celebrity names that pop up. This case, it was 50 Cent. We heard earlier in the trial, Usher and Neo were at a dinner where Cassie was allegedly assaulted. It was unclear whether they saw that, but it was said that they were there. As far as the history of 50 Cent and Diddy, do we know how it started? I know that 50 Cent had a diss track, I think around 2006, claiming that Sean Combs knew who killed Biggie Smalls, but is there a particular incident that happened that made 50 Cent just seem to really start to come at Sean Combs?
Friends distanced themselves without explanation. According to 50, none of it was accidental, it was all part of a pattern. Then he delivered the most shocking detail. Back in the early 2000s, someone close to Diddy approached 50 with an offer an exclusive, secretive business venture. When he asked for details, the answers got vague. They claimed it was about creating elite spaces for expression. When he pressed for more, they withdrew the offer. Days later, Diddy confronted him in person, told him to forget about it, said he wasn't the right fit. 50 Cent said he'll never forget the look Diddy gave him that day. It felt like Diddy knew he wouldn't play along and resented him for it. The courtroom was silent as 50 laid out his story. He didn't raise his voice or exaggerate, just recounted what he'd experienced, or at least what he believed to be true.
Now, in a new interview recently published by The Hollywood Reporter, the Get Rich or Die Trying rapper isn't mincing words on how he really feels about his arch rival. In the interview, 50 Cent addressed his relationship with Diddy, who faces a number of troubling allegations, including rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment, and sex trafficking over a string of lawsuits. 50 Cent says he's been very vocal about not going to Diddy's now infamous parties, which have been alleged as the site of some of the heinous acts he's been accused of. While referring to Diddy as his old moniker Puffy, 50 Cent said, "I've been very vocal about not going to Puffy parties and doing stuff like that. I've been staying out of that stuff for years. It's an uncomfortable energy connected to it." When asked if someone told 50 Cent if the energy there was off or if he went to something that felt odd, 50 replied, "He asked to take me shopping. I thought that was the weirdest stuff in the world because that might be something that a man says to a woman." He would go on to say, "From that, I wasn't comfortable around him." 50 Cent would go on to discuss the brutal hotel surveillance video released in May, which showed the Bad Boy founder horrifically attacking his ex-girlfriend Cassie. That incident was mentioned in Cassie's now settled lawsuit against Diddy, in which Diddy allegedly paid $50,000 for the tape. Once that video was made public, Diddy issued a public apology. However, didn't mention Cassie by name. As it's been reported, Diddy is no longer able to say her name publicly as a part of their settlement.
I was f***ed up. I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. Now they're going to therapy, they're going to rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
Was published to Diddy's Instagram, but has since been scrubbed from his page. Diddy's rival 50 Cent had choice words about the brutal video, saying first he denied that even happened, and then the tape comes out, so that means everything that N-word says is a lie. When someone watches that, if they have a daughter and they can imagine her being under those circumstances, that stuff is crazy. Like they let him get away with it. With all the influence and power you have, the person you're with is supposed to be a part of your life, not be forced. 50 Cent has long touted his plans to make a docuseries about his longtime rival. When asked what made 50 want to produce the series, he replied in part, "I'm the only one from hip-hop culture that's produced quality projects."
As he continued, the testimony grew even more disturbing. He discussed people who confided in him, people who worked with Diddy, who said they felt trapped, unable to leave, afraid that if they spoke up, something worse than lawsuits or bad publicity would happen. He described silent threats, blackmail, rumors carefully released to destroy reputations. It all appeared to coordinated to be random. He even said there were whispers about Diddy keeping files, photos, videos, material that could be used as leverage. 50 admitted he never saw these files himself. But the fear was real. Too many people talked about it. Too many acted scared. He said artists left Diddy's studio late at night looking emotionally shattered, like they'd given up something they hadn't wanted to. And most of them never spoke about it publicly. At that point, Diddy lost control. He leaned forward, whispered to his lawyers, then slammed his hand on the table. The judge called for order, but the outburst said more than words ever could. 50 Cent simply watched, calm and unfazed, as if he expected this reaction. Then he did something unexpected. He got personal. He spoke about being young in the industry, how challenging it was to deal with fame, power, and figures like Diddy. He said the worst part was not the fear, but the silence, how people around Diddy would enable him, defend him publicly, but whisper the truth in private. 50 Cent said he was done staying silent. He ended his testimony with a single line: "This isn't about beef, it's about truth. People need to know who they're dealing with." The silence in the courtroom said everything.
50 Cent and Diddy have collaborated on a few songs together, and when 50 was an unsigned rapper more than 20 years ago, he used to ghostwrite for the Bad Boy founder. But 50 Cent made it clear the two just worked together. He replied in part, "I wouldn't call it a friendship because there would be disappointment between us if we didn't speak to each other. There's points that we work together." 50 Cent would go on to credit Jennifer Lopez, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, who 50 Cent said told Diddy he would work with him as a songwriter in the beginning of his career. 50 Cent said this occurred when he was getting back to work after being shot several times in May of 2000. He would recall, though, one time when Diddy called and 50's oldest son's mother answered the phone and 50 refused to talk to Diddy. 50 would go on to say he didn't want to answer the phone because he didn't want to ever party or hang out with him. He replied, "Puff is a business person. When people call him a producer, I see people that were taken advantage of who produced things that he took from them. He got credit. He's not a producer. He's been able to take advantage of the business and the creatives in it. I don't have any interest in doing that. I actually fall under the creative, so I just didn't want to hang out with."
Outside, the media exploded. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Social media blew up immediately. People began reposting old clips of 50 Cent warning about Diddy. Old interviews where he hinted at something bigger. Suddenly, what once sounded like jokes didn't seem funny, they felt like warnings. The hashtag 50 was right started trending. Fans dug up old videos, tweets, and stories. Every odd interview, every awkward moment, every artist who quietly left Bad Boy Records was now scrutinized. People put the pieces together and realized it wasn't random, it was a pattern. Diddy had nothing to say, no press release, no post, just silence. For someone always ready with a response, that silence spoke volumes. What 50 Cent did in that courtroom wasn't just impactful, it was a pivotal moment. This wasn't about payback or rivalry, it was about revealing the truth. Removing the mask Diddy had worn for years. The most unsettling part, 50 Cent wasn't the last witness. More people are coming, with stories and evidence. The industry is watching closely, and it's shaken. If Diddy can be brought down, anyone can. What happens next could change everything, not just for Diddy, but for the whole industry. The system that allowed this to go on, and the silence that shielded it. The truth is out now. Unstoppable. Diddy built his image on being untouchable. But now he looks more vulnerable than ever, and the truth isn't stopping for anyone.